Hello, my name is Erin Davidson, and today I'm going to be doing my video presentation on the settlement at Jamestown. So, I was really excited when I found out that we were going to be able to choose our subject for this project because I really have always been interested in Jamestown. It's always been something that I've had fun learning about, and I think it's really cool that I get to look into it a lot more. So I knew when I learned about it in class, I knew that I wanted to know more because when I had learned about it in class, I realized that there was a whole other side to it that I hadn't learned about before. A much darker side that tells and completes the whole story. You know, when you're younger and you're learning about something in history, they don't always show you the full story because some of it may not be ideal for an elementary schooler kid to learn, and that's understandable. But as you get older and as you open your mind up and as you learn more about what really happened, you can really see that there's a whole other side to Jamestown, and I think that's interesting. It was also the first permanent English settlement, so it followed Roanoke, and Roanoke was a failure, and I do think it's interesting to take a look back, you know, having hindsight, to take a look back and see what things that they may have learned from the failure at Roanoke that they may have implemented in hopes that things would succeed at Jamestown. And I also think that early America and taking a look at what the lives of those people were like and then comparing it to what we're like now, I think that's also really interesting. So to present an argument about this, my idea kind of surrounds the debate about whether or not Jamestown was initially a success or a failure, and I do think it eventually succeeded. However, I do believe at first it could have been a lot more successful had they been given better planning, had they had a better relationship with the natives, because a lot of things that happened definitely could have been prevented given better planning and given better relationships with the natives, and I think that definitely would have helped. So, reason number one, I do believe that given better planning, this definitely would have run a lot more smoother. I think one of the most important things when you're starting a business, when you're starting a company, is location. You definitely want to look at where you're placing your business because that's going to have everything to do with how it succeeds or not. And that's exactly what Jamestown was. It was a company essentially run by the Virginia Company, and this was a joint stock company, meaning it was a group of investors that placed a certain amount of money into this, hoping it would succeed. So it was founded in May of 1607, along the east bank of the James River in Virginia. So what happened was the Virginia Company gave the colonists certain instructions about where they wanted this colony located. Now, according to those instructions, the colonists followed it perfectly. They found a place that perfectly suited the instructions that they were given. However, the land around this area was not fertile at all. They barely had any means of producing and growing food, and this was obviously not good. The water in the river was the only water they had to drink, and obviously it was brackish water, so it was salt water and fresh water mixed together, and that of course led to many health problems among the people drinking it, as they had no means of purifying this water. This led to numerous diseases like typhoid fever, dysentery, so that led to after 8 months in Jamestown, only 34 colonists survived out of the original 104. Here you can see Jamestown located just off the river. And then you also want to look at who was in charge, who was at Jamestown. So who would you, if you're building up a new community, you're building a town, who would you want to send? You definitely want to send people who know what they're doing, who know how to build, who know how to grow food, who know what they're doing. In case something goes wrong, you want doctors, people there that are resourceful. But who actually went to Jamestown are the wealthy people and the people who could afford to go to Jamestown and the people who were simply in search of more gold. Around 1608, about a year after Jamestown was first established, a man came into power. His name was John Smith, and he definitely had a big role in how this colony landed. So the issues at Jamestown were famine. Like I said, land was not fertile. It was not easy to grow food. We didn't have a supply from England, and there was some sort of trade with Native Americans for food, but that didn't last long because the relationship was not very good. This led to a period of time known as the Starving Time. It was a year long, where the population went from 500 to 60 because there was no food. And there was also disease. So like I said, typhoid, things like that. And I do believe that the people are to blame for this. Had there been more resourceful people there, had there been more planning, and better people sent over there, a lot of these deaths may not have occurred. Doctors may have been able to prevent some of this, and I do think that has everything to do with planning. Here you've got some pictures during the starving time. Colonists carrying other men out of Jamestown. I do strongly believe that had there been a better relationship with the Native Americans, the colonists of Jamestown definitely would have had a better chance of survival and a better chance of success. So the relationship with the natives was not very good. It was very wishy-washy. To begin with, the natives, when the colonists first landed, the natives really did not like it. They saw it as a threat. In the past, they had been mistreated by the Spanish that landed, and they thought this was going to be the same thing all over again. So they saw this as a threat. They treated the colonists with hostility, which is understandable. These new people, they have no idea who they are, just landed in their home. They see it as a threat, naturally. As time goes on, the natives begin treating the colonists with hospitality. They give them food, they give them corn, and John Smith does work out a trading system with the Native Americans. However, both sides treated each other terribly. There were atrocities committed on both sides. They burnt each other's crops. They kidnapped women and children. There was a lot of murder involved, a lot of fighting. It was not a pretty picture at all. Here we've got some visuals. So in the bottom we have a painting of the colonists fighting with the Indians, the Native Americans. And this happened a lot. They were not very nice to each other. In the top right, you've got somewhat of a friendly encounter. And then in the top left, you have pictured Pocahontas and John Rolfe. And it looks as though Pocahontas is holding back her father, who's the chief. And this painting is very representative of what eventually brought peace between the Native Americans and the colonists for a short period of time. And what that was exactly was the relationship, the marriage between Pocahontas, who is the chief's daughter, and John Rolfe, one of the English colonists. This was very important. It kind of forced both sides into a truce, and it caused a great period of peace for a good amount of time, and that was very important because, like I said, you're sharing land with people. You need to get along with them, and I do think that had a lot to do with how eventually Jamestown reached a success. I do definitely think one of the most important things I've learned from this class is that history is so important. It has such a great impact on our future, and it has shown to repeat itself. You know, history does repeat itself, and it's very hard, I believe, to move forward as a country if you don't know the history, if you don't understand what has been done in the past and how that may have affected our future. So I do definitely think Jamestown has a lot of things to learn, a lot of lessons to teach. I boiled it down to two mainly. I think resourceful people are very important in development, and that's a very obvious statement. Had there been people who knew what they were doing, people who specialize in building up, people who specialize in, if things go wrong, architects, farmers, doctors, people who know what they're doing, had those types of people been there, it definitely would have been more successful. And that has a great deal of the success of it, and I do believe that it definitely would have been a much better working colony. Another thing which can be said through a lot of things throughout history is that working with others is important. Keeping the peace between two countries, two people, two groups of people can have all the difference in the survival of the group or country. This is so evident in this situation because I believe had the natives and the colonists worked together more, a much greater thing than what did come out of it could have come out of this. You know, it's very important to keep peace, and it's very important to do what's right, and I do believe that working together always produces a better product. than conflict. And I think that's true of a lot of things throughout history. Thank you for watching my presentation. I really enjoyed making this, and thank you for everything.